What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so this is a video response to Ticket TV talking about Dwight Howard, and I agree with Ticket's points in his video. So just to give a brief synopsis of this photograph. So this was from last night. Dwight Howard got into a fracas with Udonis Haslem, who is the oldest player in the NBA at 40. Number one. He's his first year in the NBA with Miami was 2003-2004, which was Wade's rookie year. The year before that, he was playing in France. This guy's been playing pro ball for 19 years. He's second all time in Miami Heat franchise in games played with 859. The reason why he's not number one is because in recent years he's played sporadically. So Wade's number one overall in games played with Miami. But this is a guy that's played 18 years in the NBA and Haslem is a very respected player. I believe he has served as president of the Players League or the Players Union, excuse me. So this is a very respected player. Haslem, he's an OG, and here comes Dwight Howard, whose scruples and respect factor in the league is questionable at best. And here he goes, into a situation where he's throwing down and fighting a 40-year-old guy. You don't get no fucking respect for that. And then, on top of that, because he already had 16 technical fouls, he was thrown out and given a technical. This gives him his 17th technical, and under the NBA rules in the post, Rasheed Wallace, post Ron Artest era, every technical you get over 16, you have to sit a game. So if he gets another technical going to the playoffs, I'm not mistaken, he's suspended for a game, which would hurt Philly. And knowing this stupid ass knucklehead, he'll probably do it because he's a stupid ass. So this is already going to tell you how I feel about Ticket's point. I agree. The only guy that I think challenges Dwight Howard for most wasted talent is off the top of my head is Derek Coleman. That's the only guy because Derek Coleman could have been at least, if you go by ability, a top 20 to 25 all-time player. But he was lazy, he lacked work ethic, and he liked to eat. You know what I'm saying? Not a crime, but if you're an athlete, you can't do that. Um, Vin Baker's another guy that comes to mind, but Vin Baker, I never saw his ceiling to be that high. You know what I'm saying? Vin Baker was a talented all-star level player, but no, not on the level of a Derek Coleman or especially a Dwight Howard. Now, Dwight Howard, he never had conditioning issues. You know, his problem was laziness as far as working on his weaknesses and not being as committed to improving his game. That was his weakness. His weakness was also surrounding himself, from what I can best tell, when he was at the peak of his powers, surrounding himself with sycophants, okay, that were telling him what he wanted to hear and not what he needed to hear. Now, he's going to go to the Hall of Fame. I mean, his numbers, you can't help but put him in the Hall of Fame. Even still, with all of this decline period, his career averages are 16 points and 12 rebounds. You know what I'm saying? He has over 19,000 career points. He's over 14,000 rebounds. He's a couple of hundred rebounds away from passing Nate Thurmond, which will push him, I believe, 10th all time in rebounding in pro basketball history. He has 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards, I believe. He's led the NBA in blocks, I think, twice, and rebounding 4 times. Multiple time All Star. I believe he was an All Star from 2006 to 2014. So when you look at his resume, the longevity, you look at what he was able to do for a while. He did take the Orlando Magic to the finals in 2009. They led that team. You have to put him in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. People don't like to think of him as a Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of Famer. But the thing is this: Dwight Howard Anybody that remembers watching basketball in the late 2000s know this. Remember, he was the guy, along with the Boston Celtics, that were deterring LeBron James from getting to that promised land, which is the finals. It was him. Now, at the time, he was a young phenom. He had weaknesses, but his athleticism was off the charts. Remember, you never saw a guy at that time, you know, Wilt, I think exceeded him, but you know what I'm trying to say, modern day. You never saw a guy that was his size, 6'11", 270 or 280, whatever he weighed at the time, and could jump out of the gym the way he could. 40-inch vertical leap. And when he had that athleticism going for him, phenomenal, phenomenal uh, player. He was not a great overall scorer as far as what he could do, but you know what I'm saying? If he got close up to the basket, you couldn't stop him. Lobs all day. That would give he could give you 20, 18, 20 points just off of that. If he ever developed an actual, game, post game, and developed some shots and worked on his range to at least the free throw line, oh my God, this guy would have been 27 to 30 points a night. But he never worked on his game. And he relied totally on his athleticism. And he was one of these guys, I think, that believed his own press clippings, listened to his own, listened to to these hypesters and cheerleaders on ESPN when they were comparing him to Akeem Olajuwon. I think he bought into all that bullshit, comparing him to Wilt, comparing him to all these other guys, comparing him to Shaq, who was still playing, and I think it was very disrespectful, calling him Superman when Shaq was still playing at the time. And the way that he fucked over the Orlando Magic franchise when he left was a disgrace. And he thought that winning a championship was easy. It is not. Him and Kobe infamously, were at odds with each other. He couldn't cut it, playing with a guy like Kobe with his work ethic. He couldn't make it there. Kobe called him fucking soft to his face. Then he went over to Houston, I believe. And after that, that's when he became a journeyman because the game was evolving. Analytics was beginning to rule the roost when it came to these owners and not owners necessarily, but the general managers. This new breed of general managers and coaches who believe more in analytics and thought that big men should be more uh, offensive minded as far as like shooting, passing, and the days of the dominant big who was just rebounding and playing defense and all that. These guys were seen as dinosaurs. The Dale Davises, the Antonio Davises of the world, they were disappearing, and you start seeing more than Nikola Jokic and those type of players. And Dwight Howard, the game was leaving him by as far as being a superstar, but he could still contribute, but his ego wouldn't allow him to. To easily go into that role. He still thought of himself as a superstar when he no longer was. And he was burning his bridges with so many different teams. You know what I'm saying? Atlanta, Washington, when the incident happened, Memphis, I think, another team. He was burning his bridge. Charlotte. He became a journeyman. He couldn't find an opportunity. Then he went to the Lakers with his hat in hand, with his head down, scratching his head even though it didn't itch. You know what I'm saying? Like Morgan Freeman when he was trying to get parole on Shawshank Redemption, looking all remorseful. Yes, sir. I've learned my lesson. And then what do he do when he gets the championship? He did all the right things. First thing he does is go out there and make it all about himself. Then he demands more money and all this shit. He shows his true colors. You know. At the end of the day, I've let it be known how I feel about Dwight Howard. He's a complete look. I would say the last 5 or 6 years have been a stain on his legacy. Okay. I'm not even going into some of the hypocritical off the court shit he does. Okay. Like, I usually don't go into that part of people's lives, but um, he's made himself out to be such a huge hypocrite because this is a guy when he was at the peak of his stardom would go on what is the Christian Broadcast Network with Pat Robertson and talk about how he's a Christian and how he's a man of faith and all that. But then at the same time, this guy is just dropping kids here, left and right, one after the other with different women, having orgies, with you know what. We've heard this. We know the details of that. Okay. Um, we've seen the evidence and we know what he got down with. Okay. Had to have surgery, you know what I'm saying, on his gluteus because, you know, the the the, the thing that he did it with wrecked him. Literally wrecked him. Wrecked his rectum. Oh, this guy's a fucking joke, man. I'm sorry. Um, Lord have mercy, man. I just I don't know. I don't know, man. I just he could have been and he should have been at least a top 10 player. Even if he never won a championship. This is a guy that right now, even at his age, should still be a borderline all-star in the NBA. At least. What is he, 35, 36? He should still be a borderline all-star. Damn, he should still be a starter at least. Remember, Timmy Duncan was a starter until the end, pretty much, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a starter till the end. Now, Elijah Wan, I think the last year he wasn't a starter because of the respiratory lung problem he had. But you get what I'm saying, right? All these other greats were able to prolong their productivity. This guy, he just and with his personality, you just don't know how many years he has left. So I don't know. At the end of the day, he's going to get into the Hall of Fame. But I think that as time goes on, and as I could make a lot of jokes right now, but I'm not going to do that. As time goes on, and he gets tired of certain other extracurricular activities, and he reflects upon his career, he's going to have a lot of sadness and disappointment. You know, because he didn't take it seriously. He didn't take it seriously as he should have, and you know, he's going to regret it. He's going to seriously regret not working on his game the way he should have. You um, look, trying to think of a good example to bring up for you guys. Gary Payton, when he came to the NBA, he didn't come right out and playing, superstar bonkers. No, he struggled offensively. He was not a great shooter. He was known as a guy that potentially could be a great defensive player, but and a great and a really good passer. But offensively, he was kind of weak. He had to work on his game relentlessly, and it doesn't always pay off immediately. But that work that you put in will pay off eventually. It'll pay off, and I think within 3 to 4 seasons, that's when we started seeing Gary the Glove Payton. a guy that perennially could put up 18 to 24 points a game, get you about 3 to 4 rebounds. He was a point guard. He was smallish, not going to get a lot of rebounds, but he got you 7 to 8 to 9 assists a game, and perennially was top 3 to 4 in steals. That was Gary the Glove Payton. He made the most out of his potential. You see what I'm saying? Jason Kidd's another guy that made the most out of his potential. He couldn't shoot to save his life. Eventually, he became a respected 3-point shooter. Not tremendously great, but he had to respect his shot. That's what you have to do to further make you more unstoppable. You have to work on your weaknesses. And you can't just rely on athleticism. Because when you just rely on athleticism, you don't have anything else to fall on. Dominique Wilkins, who I'm going to do a video on soon, was arguably the most athletic player in the NBA when he was playing, right? But then when he went, but as he knew, as the 80s turned into the 90s, he couldn't just rely on his athleticism. So we saw Dominique, even as he played, right? Even during the 80s, if you watched him, you saw him shooting more and more from the mid range, not always taking it to the basket. And then as we went into the 90s, he was starting to shoot from outside. Was he a Steph Curry from three? No. But he was 33, 34%, meaning he knocked down one out of every three. And you had to respect it. That's what you do when you get older. That's why Dominique Wilkins was able to play longer at a higher level. But tell me what you guys think.